Junko Furuta was a bright and cheerful 17-year-old girl. Born on January 18, 1971, in Misato, Saitama Prefecture, she had a promising future. Junko was known for her diligent nature. She attended Yashio Minami High School, where she was well liked by her peers and teachers. Her aspirations included becoming an idol singer, a dream shared by many young girls in Japan at the time. Junko's life was full of promise. She participated actively in school activities and maintained good grades. Her friends admired her determination and kindness. Outside of school, Junko enjoyed spending time with her family. She had a younger brother and was very protective of him. Her parents were proud of her achievements and supportive of her ambitions. Junko's world was one of normalcy and hope. She dreamt of a future that many young people take for granted. However, her dreams and her life were tragically cut short. The events that unfolded over 40 days in late 1988 would shock Japan and the world. Junko Furuta's story is one of unimaginable suffering and a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk within society. It was November 25, 1988, when Junko's nightmare began. She was on her way home from her part-time job. The evening was chilly, and she was looking forward to warming up at home. Little did she know that 4 boys, who were classmates, had planned something sinister. Hiroshi Miyano, one of the perpetrators, had developed an obsession with Junko. His advances had been rejected, fueling his anger. As Junko walked her usual route, she was unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Miyano and his friends, Nobuharu Minato, Joe Ogura, and Yasushi Watanabe, were waiting. They approached her under the pretense of needing directions. When Junko tried to help, they seized the opportunity. Miyano grabbed her and dragged her to a nearby warehouse. The terror had begun. In the warehouse, Junko was subjected to initial assaults. The boys then decided to take her to Minato's house. They convinced her that if she cooperated, she would be released. Desperate and scared, Junko complied. Over the next hour, Junko's life was forever altered. She was forced to call her parents and tell them she was staying with a friend. This was a lie, coerced by her captors to prevent her family from looking for her. The perpetrators were not strangers to delinquency. Hiroshi Miyano, the apparent leader, was a known troublemaker. His connections with the Yakuza gave him a sense of invincibility. Miyano's arrogance and resentment towards Junko were the catalysts for her abduction. Joe Ogura, another key figure, shared Miyano's violent tendencies. Ogura's lack of empathy made him a willing participant. Nobuharu Minato was perhaps the most enigmatic of the group. His home became the prison where Junko's horrors unfolded. Minato's parents, remarkably, were aware of the situation. They chose to turn a blind eye, fearing Miyano's Yakuza ties. Yasushi Watanabe, the 4th member, followed the lead of the others. His involvement was driven more by peer pressure than personal vendetta. The dynamics within the group were toxic. Their collective cruelty knew no bounds. Over the 40 days, they invited other youths to join in the torment. This added to Junko's unimaginable suffering. The perpetrators showed a complete lack of remorse. Their actions were driven by a desire to dominate and dehumanize. The group's cohesion came from shared violence, making them more dangerous. Junko's ordeal at Minato's house was beyond comprehension. The torture began immediately upon her arrival. She was beaten, starved, and subjected to sexual abuse. The perpetrators used varying methods to inflict pain. They burned her with cigarettes, inserted foreign objects into her body, and forced her to consume substances that caused severe harm. As the days dragged on, the abuse escalated. Junko's body bore the brunt of their cruelty. She suffered broken bones, internal injuries, and severe burns. Despite her condition, she was denied medical attention. The boys derived pleasure from her suffering. They used her as a tool for their sadistic entertainment. Junko's cries for help were met with more brutality. The perpetrators' inhumanity extended to psychological torture. They stripped Junko of her dignity. They forced her to perform degrading acts. They invited others to participate, further dehumanizing her. The house became a place of continual torment. Junko's spirit, however, remained unbroken. Despite the agony, she held on to hope. Her resilience in the face of such horror is a testament to her strength. Section 5. The Discovery, a Tragic End. On January 4, 1989, Junko's suffering came to a tragic end. Her injuries were too severe. The boys, fearing repercussions, decided to dispose of her body. They placed her remains in a drum filled with concrete. The drum was then abandoned in Koto, Tokyo. It was a callous attempt to erase their crime. However, Junko's story could not be buried. The police were eventually led to the drum. The discovery shocked the nation. Junko's body was identified and the gruesome details of her ordeal emerged. The perpetrators were arrested and charged. The investigation revealed the extent of the torture. The public was horrified. The brutality inflicted on Junko Furuta was beyond imagination. Her death was a stark reminder of the evil that can reside in human hearts. Section 6. The legal proceedings seeking justice. The trial of Junko Furuta's killers began in 1989. The court proceedings were closely watched by the public. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence. The testimonies of the perpetrators and witnesses detailed the horrific abuse. The defense attempted to argue for leniency based on the boy's age. The courtroom was a battleground of emotions and legal arguments. The legal system faced a significant challenge. The nature of the crime called for severe punishment. However, the fact that the perpetrators were minors complicated matters. The prosecution sought life sentences. The defense argued for rehabilitation. The court had to balance justice with the legal framework for juvenile offenders. The trial was a test of the judicial system's ability to deliver justice. Section 7. The sentences' controversial outcomes. In July 1990, the sentences were handed down. Hiroshi Miyano received a 20-year prison term. The other 3 boys received lesser sentences ranging from 5 to 10 years. The sentences sparked outrage. Many felt the punishment did not fit the crime. The leniency was seen as an insult to Junko's memory. The public outcry was immediate and intense. The controversy over the sentences highlighted flaws in the legal system. Critics argued that the judicial leniency failed to account for the severity of the crime. The sentences were seen as inadequate for the level of brutality inflicted on Junko. The public reaction underscored a demand for reform. People called for changes to the laws governing juvenile offenders. The case became a catalyst for legal and societal reflection. Section 8. Public reaction, outrage and sorrow. The public reaction to Junko Furuta's case was one of profound sorrow and anger. The Japanese media covered the trial extensively. The details of Junko's suffering were widely reported. The nation mourned her loss. Her story became a symbol of innocence destroyed by evil. The case resonated deeply, touching the hearts of people from all walks of life. Public outrage was directed not only at the perpetrators, but also at the judicial system. People demanded justice for Junko. Protests and vigils were held in her memory. The case sparked discussions about the treatment of violent juvenile offenders. The lenient sentences were seen as a failure of the legal system to protect the innocent and punish the guilty. Section 9. Impact on Japanese society, lessons learned. Junko Furuta's tragic story left an indelible mark on Japanese society. The case prompted a re-evaluation of juvenile justice laws. There were calls for harsher penalties for violent crimes committed by minors. The legal system faced pressure to ensure that justice was served fairly and effectively. Junko's case became a reference point for debates on legal reform. The impact extended beyond the legal sphere. Junko's story raised awareness about the dangers that young people can face. It highlighted the importance of vigilance and community support. The case also underscored the need for societal change to address issues of violence and empathy. Junko Furuta's legacy is one of enduring strength and a reminder of the need for justice and compassion.